Hi folks, I'd like to show you guys my new blast cabinet that I recently completed. This is actually the second one of these that I've built. The first one was very similar to this in construction. The only difference being it was a lot smaller, which is why I built this one, because the first one wasn't big enough. So I built this thing out of about 2.5 sheets of 3/4 inch BC plywood. It's got about 4 coats of a good exterior latex paint on it. You look at the leg set here. The leg set's built out of about, I guess it's 1.5 by 1.5 1/8 wall angle iron. As you can see, it's bolted to the cabinet on 2 sides with 4 1-inch by 1/4 inch lag bolts. This thing has dust collection rigged into it. It's not hooked up yet. I intend in the future to build a water trap to hook this thing to, but it does have dust collection. There you can see the vacuum hose for the outlet, and on this side of the cabinet you can actually see what is a dust. You see this box here. It's just a piece of 2 by 4 inch extruded metal tube, and it's actually a dust hood. And I don't think you can see under here. I don't know if you can see in here or not, but there's actually 2 2-inch holes in there for an inlet to allow the air to come in. Kind of a funny story. When I built the first one of these, I just simply overlooked the inlet part of the vacuum system, and when I hooked the vacuum to the thing, it nearly imploded in about 10 seconds. So I got it shut off, and it was really kind of comical, but it was just something that I'd overlooked. I didn't even think about it when I built it, and hooked, built the vacuum system for it. So, but anyway, this thing, the door on this thing is actually 3/4 inch BC plywood as well, and you'll see it's got some aluminum trim around the edges of it. And what that actually is, it's a channel. And I work at a glass shop, and this is just some old scratched up extrusions I was able to rip down and rip some channels out of to trim this door up with. So it worked out pretty well. The glass itself that's in there is a piece of 1/4 inch laminated glass. And like I say, I work at a glass shop, and this stuff's not too terribly expensive, so I had access to it. So I thought, well, I'll put a piece in there. I know a lot of people use plexiglass or whatnot, which is great, but like I say, I had access to this, so I thought, why not use it? And the glass is actually kind of a custom size, so there's really no protective mask available for this, this particular size of glass. So it's kind of sacrificial. So once it gets fogged up, I'll just have to change it. But like I say, the cost of it is not too bad. So if you look at the gloves and the flanges of this thing, these things are actually made by a company called Scat Blast. And I ordered them online from a company who sells them called TP Tools. And they also sell a Scat Blast line of blast cabinets and all types of accessories and whatnot for sandblasting. But anyway, if you look down here, you can see a little funnel or a little spigot that I've actually built. And what this thing is, it's made out of 3 by 3 steel tube, and it's got, some little, I guess, 1.5 inch strap plates welded to it on an angle so it actually fits the funnel. And the way this thing works is, to drain the abrasive, what you do is you just simply unscrew this knob, and the hinge drops down, or the lid drops down on a hinge to allow you to drain your abrasive. So once your abrasive is worn out, you can change it very, very easily. And also, this thing is on casters, so it's easy to maneuver around the shop. Got brakes on the 2 front ones. And if you look at the back side of the cabinet, you'll notice that it's straight down. On most typical blast cabinets, the funnel is actually tapered in on 4 sides. But I built this one this way, and actually I built the first one this way as well. and I incorporated the funnel into the actual back side of the cabinet. And what this does, or the reason I did this, was to greatly simplify the construction of this thing. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this before, but when you try to cut these angles on this, on something like this, there's actually a compound angle on every piece. You know, you got to cut the miter of the angle where they join at the joints, and you also have to cut the taper on the board itself, or on the piece of plywood itself. So, and the problem that I encountered, and I encountered this on the first one as well, was the table saw here won't actually tilt past 45 degrees. So the angles on this thing were a lot steeper than my table saw was capable of cutting. So what I actually did was I cut all of this with a skill saw and a straight edge, because my skill saw will actually tilt to about 54 degrees. So I was able to cut those steep angles that I couldn't cut on my table saw. Looking inside of this thing, well, let me show you here. I've got two good draw catches. Well, one on either side of the cabinet to lock it down. But when you look inside of the cabinet here, again, like I say, you can see that, you know, like I say, I've got just a good coat of, maybe 2 good coats of exterior grade latex paint on it. You know, I didn't go crazy painting the inside of this thing because I was just looking to seal it up a little bit. And if you'll notice here, you see another extruded tube, and this is actually the mirror image of the tube that's on the exterior side of the cabinet. And this is just another dust hood. And the reason I did this was because on the first one I built, all I had was a hole there. And I noticed after I started blasting, after a few minutes of blasting, there was a lot of abrasive that was finding its way onto the ground, because there was nothing there to, you know, to block it or to deter it. So this one I decided to put a hood on the inside of it as well. And if you look up here, you see just a couple little cheap round fluorescent light fixtures. These are kind of under cabinet fixtures. Let me turn them on here. And these things light this cabinet up actually pretty well. I was surprised. I was going to put 3 in, but I thought, you know, two is pretty bright. So, and if you look down inside of the cabinet, what you see here is some flat expanded metal for the grate. And basically it's just, like I say, a flat expanded metal, and it's welded to the bottom side of a 3/4 by 3/4 angle iron frame that drops in here. And you know, you can lift this thing out if for any reason you need to get to the bottom of the funnel, or to service the hoses or whatnot. Again, here are the gloves. I don't see if I can get one turn where you can see it. Here are the gloves. Like I say, they're made by a company called Scat Blast, and they're sold by tptools.com. Really good heavy-duty glove. They were like $25 a pair, I want to say. The flange itself that the glove is attached to, you can see this flange, it just kind of screws in. You just cut a hole through the cabinet, screw it in, and then you clamp your glove, you know, with a big band clamp. Anyway, these flanges themselves, they were, I want to say they were $25 as well. They weren't very expensive. As far as the gun goes, this gun is actually a Campbell Hausfeld, you know, siphon feed gun. The first cabinet that I built, I used a Campbell Hausfeld, which looked almost identical to this. No, I'm sorry, I got this backwards. This is a Campbell Hausfeld. The first one that I used was a Husky. I bought it at Home Depot, but they were almost identical. You know, truth be told, they're probably both made in the same Chinese plant. But I was kind of skeptical at first when I bought this thing, or bought the first one, and you know, I thought for $25, how well can it really work? And I was really quite surprised. I mean, if you can feed it enough air, it actually siphons pretty good. It works really well. So I'm hoping this one works as well as the first one did. You can see it's got a ceramic nozzle in the tip that's replaceable. You can see here where I've cut a hole through the grate, and I've got my my hose, my siphon hose, my air hose, they're kind of strapped together. And I don't know if you can see where this thing through the grate. I don't guess you can see it very well, but anyway, this is where it's attached to the air inlet. And if you look on the outside of this thing, I've got a 1/4-inch quick connect where I just pop my air hose right onto it, and it's ready to go. So anyway, I haven't put any abrasive in this thing yet. I built this thing primarily to etch glass and etch mirrors with. The abrasive that I do actually have the abrasive, and the abrasive I bought is actually called, I don't know if you can see this, it's called Dakota Black. And what it is, it's a coal slag, and it's supposed to be a very safe abrasive. You know, it doesn't dust up wet very much. It doesn't have any free silica. So, and I'd like to take this time here to maybe caution some of you guys about using sand. You know, the very first cabinet I built, I used sand, and I was cautioned against it, and I went ahead and used it anyway initially. And let me just tell you, no matter how well you try to seal up this cabinet, you almost can't do it. And I will show you something here too. If you see this black weather strip around the cabinet here, it's actually a foam weather strip. And once you close the door here and you latch these draw catches down, it actually seals the door pretty well. But the problem that I found with my first one, I thought it sealed well as well. And the problem I found after about 15 minutes of blasting with that sand, I could feel it in my teeth. And I was wearing a respirator. I had a fan blowing on me. You know, I had a good vacuum hooked up to it. And again, I thought my cabinet was well sealed. So the thing about this using sand is, a lot of people do it, and I did it for the same reason, is that it's cheap. You know, it's dirt cheap, it's readily available, it's easy to get your hands on, so that's why I used it. And like I said, I would caution anyone considering building one of these, or maybe if you have an existing cabinet, I would caution you against using sand. You know, it has a lot of free silica in it, and it's known to cause a condition called silicosis. And what this does is your lungs take on a bunch of this, I don't know how to describe it. It's a very, very fine dust. And anyway, your lungs take it in and they can't expel it. So what happens is, over a period of prolonged or frequent exposure to it, you can develop this situation called silicosis, or this disease called silicosis, and they say it's irreversible. So besides the fact that it dusts your cabinet up really bad, you're breathing that dust. I mean, there's two good reasons right there not to use it. Again, I would caution you guys against using sand. But anyway, if you're going to put an abrasive in a cabinet, you know, you might try this coal slag, or you may try aluminum oxide, maybe silicone carbide, maybe some glass beads. I mean, there's a myriad of abrasives out there. So, you know, just look into it, research a little bit, and make sure you get one that's relatively safe, because I mean, you don't want to wind up with black lung or worse, you know. So, but anyway, this is my cabinet. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If someone were looking to make one of these, I mean, I've got maybe $250 in this thing max. Some of the materials I already had on hand. So if you were building it from scratch, it'd probably cost you a little more, but I would think you could easily get into this cabinet for $350, you know. And if you were going to buy one this size, you couldn't touch one for $1,000. So it's a worthwhile project. If someone's got some tools, they've got some time, and they want to get their hands dirty, I would encourage you guys to give it a shot. But anyway, that's my cabinet, and thanks for watching. Take care.